The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show.
Good morning. Good morning. I am independent journalist Georgia Ford, and today we have an extremely special show planned for you today. Today is the Ladies Takeover. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning. Good morning.
I am so excited to be on screen with both of you. You're both powerful women. I know that we have worked on the Benjamin Dixon Show and Like It or Not in different capacities, but to set the guys aside and let us do our thing, I'm really excited about it. I've been waiting for this, and just to be honest, I hope we can do more of it.
I really do. And good morning, beautiful ladies. Yes, this is the first time that I even been on the clock. So this is a whole moment right here. This is a whole moment. But absolutely, I know we've never met each other, Georgia. But in our first meeting of having you on the show, you've been a definite light. I love your work. I love what you're doing. Anoa, you've been a mentor to me for some years now, thanks to Benjamin. So shouts out to Ben for putting us together. But it's a woman's takeover, so we're going to make it all things ladies today.
Absolutely. And I encourage women who are watching to leave in the comments just different discussions you like us to have. I mean, there's so many issues that are personal to us, from mothering to dating to self-care, that it'd be really fun to engage women in our audience in a unique way that only we can. So we're not saying that the fellas can't tune in or can't participate. That's not what this is. But we deserve some space from time to time just for us, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. And this morning I would like to, because what I do a lot of times in my work, I try to center the stories of mothers, because as a woman and as a mother myself, their stories are so near and dear to me. And so over the weekend, I had the opportunity to spend some time with Katie Wright, who is a mother here in our community. And yesterday just so happened to be the 1-year anniversary that her son, Dante Wright, was fatally shot by Kim Potter in Brooklyn Center. A lot of you may remember that moment. It happened 3 weeks into the Derek Chauvin trial. It was unbelievable. Nobody could believe that the world was watching Minnesota following the murder of George Floyd. The world was watching Minnesota because the Derek Chauvin trial was happening, and everybody was wondering, was he going to be found guilty, what the verdict was going to be. And in the middle of that trial, another Black man was killed by police. I want you guys to take a listen to Katie Wright as she reflected what this last year has been like for her. Take a listen.
This last year has been an emotional roller coaster. It's been living a nightmare. It feels like I'm in the twilight zone. And it's been a whole year, and I'm still in a twilight zone. The hardest time was that first month that Dante was gone. I was in disbelief, and I just wanted to lay in bed and close my eyes and then wake up and it would be all over, right? Dante was just the light of our family. He would come in and joke so much, and he loved his son, and he was a happy kid, and he loved sports, and he had big dreams and aspirations that were taken at an age of 20 that he had so much life ahead of him. And he was my whole heart. He was my son. He's a part of us that we'll never get back, but I feel him around us still, and I know that spiritually he's here, and he's going to continue to help me fight help me so that way there's no more Dantes, right? There's going to be no more names, and I'll continue to do so.
What have you learned in the last year?
Oh, wow. I've learned so much. I've learned that no matter how hateful the world gets, You have to keep fighting, because that's what they want you to do. They want to be so cruel and knock you down so many times that you just give up, so that way they win. And if we allow that and continue to let people treat other people like that and don't say something when we see it, it's never going to change. I've also allowed that white people need to stand up before it happens to them. Don't say you see things happening. Don't agree that it's wrong. Then what are you doing about it? Because I am that white person. I didn't do anything about it, right? I was in my comfort and my privilege that I wasn't out here standing with everybody, with Jamar Clark, with, Cordell Handy. I wasn't there. I watched it. I knew about it, and I was in agreement, and I 100% stood with them. But white America needs to stop, and they need to stand up, and they need to say something before it does happen to them. Before they are in a position where you don't have a choice. Now you're thrown into it, and you have to do something about it. Don't wait for that moment. Do it now to protect your neighbor, your child's friend. You may not have any BIPOC in your family, right? But BIPOC community is touching every white person in America, some way, somehow. If it's not through their family, their friends, people they work with, like, stand up and say something now to protect them. Don't wait for it to happen to you.
I thought it was very powerful how she pointed out being a white mother and this happening to her because she has biracial children. But what I can't help but notice is the fact that, we're here in the epicenter of this global movement where everybody promised change, right? We saw what happened to Chauvin. We saw what happened to Potter. There was a little accountability there, right? But she was only sentenced to 24 months. And then Amir Locke happens, and those officers aren't even charged. And so the question that is on the minds of most Minnesotans who have been advocating for change, and I would even argue most Americans who have been arguing for change, is what has really changed when just a couple of miles away from where George Floyd was killed, a black boy is killed who legally owns a gun, and nothing happens about it. No one's charged. What has really changed?
It's funny, because I'll say this, I don't think anything has really changed. I mean, we can go all the way back to just Breonna Taylor, and that's recent. In recent years, we can take it way back some years before us that these things are constantly happening. I think little things have changed where we're able to go out into the street and protest, but even in that, we're still being abused and targeted while we're protesting. And then the accountability is something that we're looking at as justice, just for them to at least be taken to trial or something that goes to court. That to us is becoming like the epitome of what justice looks like, and then when justice comes, we're getting 2 years for a police officer killing someone. In this case, Kim Potter for Dante Wright. In the interview that you did with Wright's mother, what took me aback was her actually saying, as a white woman who has biracial kids, I was sitting in my own privilege until this particular, death came to my door, something that I've seen for hashtags of Black children, but I didn't think it was going to happen to me because I was sitting in my own privilege. So her actually taking accountability and speaking up, I think was a really big deal in that interview that you did with her.
Absolutely.
I just want to also say, Georgia, I know you got to get ready and go, but amazing work. Really getting in there and centering these conversations and stories in this way. Been watching your footage. We haven't gotten to do anything yet together, but been watching your footage and coverage of just even the protests around Amir Locke, and just some of the stuff that you've been doing quite some time. And we're still in a pandemic, y'all. Georgia be out there in these streets, and we are still in a pandemic. And I just want to say salute, sis. I'm just so honored to share presence and space with you because this is a part of that storytelling, that work that we need done, that's really shining a light in a way that we don't ordinarily get from mainstream media. So I just want to say thank you this morning.
Not only is she out there doing that, she was protesting. She got hit with rubber bullets. She's a mom. She's a wife. So she's out there doing the work. And like you said, I'm absolutely honored to be here working alongside her. So that's big. You're right.
I appreciate you both, and I have admired both of you. I've listened and watched both of you. You're both powerful. You know, you have challenged me to think about perspectives and issues differently. And Rebecca, your energy, girl, I be listening to you. I'm like, man, if I don't have 3 cups of coffee, there's no way I can have the interview. And so you just always bring joy and laughter into my household, because even when I'm not on, I am listening. And so it means so much to be honored and recognized by you. And I hope, as I do prepare to hop off, I hope if women don't get anything else from this episode, the one thing I want them to take away is that we can celebrate each other, that we can honor one another, that we can work together alongside each other, because there's been, some unfortunate stereotypes, I think, in our community as Black women, that things have to be competitive, or, there's not enough seats at the table for us all to win. And I think that's untrue. And I think that we're proving that today as we celebrate each other and honor one another. I would even encourage women to hit up your sis and tell her what you appreciate about her, because there's nothing more rewarding, there's nothing more fulfilling than when you have another Black woman, look at you and tell you that she's proud of you, that she admires the work that you're doing, that she sees you. It's just, I don't know, it's a good feeling.
It is a good feeling, but I know you have to go. Thank you for having me on the show. I'm honored. Thank you for starting off the show. We have a full show ahead of you guys, so stay tuned and you go do what you got to do. Hit them streets, Georgia. We're proud of you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You guys have a good day. All right. Let's do this again soon.
Absolutely.
Bubba, take it away. See you guys next.
Don't got no heart, I got an icebox. Brand new
Hello,
so I
Black
bet the
Panther,
G-side.
hello.
Moving slowly, I know the street hype.
On to the DEA.
Yeah. Came from the trenches, they ain't showing us no love. Thugging in the city, all we wanted was a hug, yeah. We on the block like every night to catch a buzz. Get the cash and
Hey, Miss Sophia, good morning to you.
with no soldiers.
Can y'all believe I was thrown out of my church for claiming Jesus fucked with a list?
Glad to see the sun, but my
It was a real slap in the face.
life's so crazy, what we been through.
Let me put my hand behind my ear.
They gon' miss you. Tell my mama no more tears, no more tissue. Ooh, just some hood baby with some issues. Hood baby from the struggle. Long time had a hustle. Glad we made it through. I'm just glad we made it through. Hood baby from the struggle. Long time had a hustle. Glad we made
Also, y'all, my 6-year-old daughter has lined up all of her dolls towards the outdoor grill. Looks like she's preparing some kind of barbecue.
I've been busy and picking up when you callin'. And on purpose, I hate the fact when you talking. But anything that you need, dog, I got you, I mean that. All this pressure make it hard not to relapse. Build up aggression make it hard for me to relapse.
All right, y'all, welcome back to the screen. My sisters from another mister, Rebecca and Noah. Good morning, y'all.
Good morning.
Good morning. What's up, Anoa? Good morning. Listen, we are taking over.
Gosh.
We are taking
Rebecca,
over.
It's so good. It's so
I know,
good.
it's so good.
I mean,
It's
we
so
already run bin stuff, but like this is official.
Yes. And you are like one of the first people who told me, girl, move Ben to the side. What is it that you have? Listen, what is it that you want? I remember when Ben had us in some kind of boot camp and you were our mentor, and it was funny because
I know we can't go into all of the things about that experience. But
you can't.
That was such an amazing opportunity with y'all.
It was.
To really, because I had already met you before when y'all were doing the other show at the studio.
Yeah, like it or not, one.
Yeah, like it or not, the first edition.
Yeah.
And that was really cool to come and just, interact. But like, we didn't really, get to really like engage or anything, right? Like, I just popped in as a guest and, went on my way. But when, the building and bringing that team together and getting there to sit there and like work with you and watch y'all in your process, Ben was all like, oh, I got to turn them into you and know what they got. I got to get them to do this and da 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 da. You know how Ben gets. Like, we love you, Ben, but Ben gets very like, it's that other Gemini energy. I'm a Gemini too.
But there's two Gemini energies, and I can definitely attest to that. Definitely.
And so Ben was like, this just has to be like, people need to like believe, in them as these political powerhouses. And the thing was, y'all had that, like the stories that you were picking yourselves, like the way you were walking through, all I did was help, like, polish the shine of the diamonds that were already there, right? Like, I mean, like, whether y'all were talking about maternal mortality or just like, I mean, it was so many different things in those long daily conversations we would have and the prep for content that I'm sorry the world never got to see. But here we are, and this is great, and I'm so proud of you. And just watching you just like grow and develop and like, I mean, but you're dope. Like, I've learned a lot from you too. Because like with you and Valeria and y'all J school background and experience and stuff, I was like, wow.
Shouts out to Florida A&M University that developed.
What I'm saying? HBCUs out here like making excellence happen every single day, right? Like I just, one thing that I have learned over the past, I was just tweeting that this is, I think, the third time I've done like a ladies takeover of Ben's show, and the first one was 6 years ago approximately.
Wow.
Back in the early days of Progressive Army, David probably remembers this. We had, a whole crew of women that were working, with Progressive Army on the back end, doing different things. And we did a ladies takeover, and then we did another conversation, I think like a Sunday chat that Ben let me pull together, and he ran on his YouTube channel as well. But like through all of that, what I appreciate the most is being able to engage and see like these beautiful minds that exist that aren't necessarily like the big names that folks are finding on MSNBC or CNN or wherever, on the morning, who are just really doing really amazing and impactful work. And I want to just give a shout out to Wendy Muse in particular. You might know her on Twitter as Muse Wendy, who has been doing this really amazing project. I mean, Wendy has a 2-year-old, a little one at home, but is doing this amazing work around providing.
Oh, she has a pandemic baby.
I'm trying to think if she was born during the pandemic or right before the pandemic, but it's been amazing, like watching that journey, but her organizing and how she has shifted and still doing, what she feels is the work. Has been amazing to watch. And so she's been doing this thing where she has been like raising money to gather N95s for people who can't afford to buy them. And while it's smaller scale than what we would have expected from our federal government response, having that mutual aid from folks like Wendy and that work, as we are in year 3, of this pandemic, because even though, everyone says it's all good. I mean, Georgia never shut down, really.
Never.
It still is very real for folks out there, particularly those of us who are immunocompromised or have other, health issues and stuff. So I just want to, give a shout out to, the many ladies of Progressive Army Benjamin Dixon show past. And as we, kiki here in the present. So yeah.
I love it. There's so many. I love that we can do this. I love that there are so many people that Ben has had in his life in different stages and was able to pull us together and bring us together. So you know what? I will say, Ben, good job. Kudos to you, because I would have never known Anoa or gotten the chance to even interview Georgia and now work alongside her. Even with Valeria, working alongside Valeria. Thank you, Anoa, for helping develop us into, who we are today, and even putting us to the side and being a mama bear and auntie to us, and having, conversations to help flesh things out and build us, especially in this space where it can get really, really dark. It just shows that there's different levels of women, and just because and when I say levels, we're all in different places, in our lives, in this moment, in this particular space. And it's always good to get, how Haitians say, bon conseil, good advice, and be, somebody who can have a listening ear. So I like that for us in this space. There is a stigma attached to women who look different, who aren't doing the same things, who have different personalities. But I think right here it shows that, we're all fighting for something. We may not even be on the same page of a lot of things, but we're all fighting for people who look like us. And I think that's great that we can have those conversations here. So thank you for that. With that being said, there's so much going on in Texas, and I've been seeing your tweets. I've been seeing your conversations. If you guys don't, you guys should definitely head over to Twitter to follow The Way with the Noah right here on the screen, as you can see under her name, because honey be tweeting, okay? She tweets. She has these conversations. She can give you a simple sentence that'll put you to bed, okay? When it comes to certain topics. Right now, the topic is Texas and abortions. Listen, Noah, what's going on in Texas?
Texas is like in a race to the bottom with several of the states, it seems like, to just deprive any and everybody of all rights, opportunity, and existence, right? Just this intense escalation that we've seen, beginning with, to be clear, on the abortion front, a lot of these restrictions and other instances of trying to erode access to abortion have long existed, right? Going back to once Roe became law itself, you see, immediately states passing laws. We have seen incrementally over the years this happening. What we're currently seeing in this very sharp and severe erosion. So in 2019, we had a wave of these 6-week abortion bans, which are nearly total abortion bans, basically, right? Because at 6 weeks, most people don't even know that they're necessarily pregnant, right? This is 6 weeks after your last menstrual period, not necessarily 6 weeks. The way they count and stuff, you wouldn't necessarily know that you're pregnant, right? Yeah. And so, but a lot of those bans got struck down by the courts and things of that nature. Like here in Georgia, the 6-week ban is actually pending at the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, waiting. They put a hold on that case, awaiting the Supreme Court's decision in Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Center. That's the Mississippi case that has kind of set this current frenzy in motion. But so you have states that are rushing to have their laws. There are tons of states that actually have trigger bans on the books. That means that if the Supreme Court does decide to do away with Roe, then these different abortion bans in various states will immediately go into effect, or have a certain time period where they go into effect. You have other states that have these varying degrees of restrictions. So we're talking about Texas, but Florida has. Florida, in terms of the South, has been one of the more permissive states in a place to be able to get abortion. It's actually some place that people have been able to travel to when the laws in their own state have been too restrictive or prohibitive. And so when Florida, or you have other states like Oklahoma, you have other nearby states where people were previously going to because their state has limited the rights so severely, now also doing the same thing, it causes beyond a regional, tidal wave of restriction to access. And some folks are like, well, there's there's adoption as an option, or, all this other stuff. And it's like, that's cool. But one, not all children are adopted, right? So we're not necessarily guaranteeing that there is a good life awaiting a child on the other side of birth and adoption. There are plenty of stories. You have, severe accounts like the movie Antoine Fisher, which is actually similar, to accounts I've heard from family members who languished in the foster care system their entire lives under the guise that, this baby would be adopted. But you also have the idea of forced pregnancy, right? We have, entities that are trying to force women and pregnant persons to maintain pregnancies that they don't want to have. That is invading bodily autonomy. You have the party of freedom and privacy rights very much interested in eroding your freedom and intervening with your privacy. So specifically, what has recently happened in Texas is Lizelle Herrera was I believe it's in the Rio Grande area, was charged after seeking treatment allegedly for a self-managed abortion, and was ultimately reported to authorities, arrested arrested, booked, charged. Her bail was set at like $500,000, I believe it is. And then ultimately the DA in the region had to drop the charges because
just
there's
yesterday,
no actual
right?
law. Yes, I think it was over the weekend, but yes, there was no actual law. There's no actual law that Lizelle broke. I mean, so this young person has now had to go through what is a personally, a personal health issue, whether we don't know if it's traumatic or whatever the case that they may have been going through initially, but certainly now having their face plastered all over the news, having
public persecution,
news,
for sure.
like all of that stuff happening and having to deal with the criminal legal system for seeking medical treatment. We now have, a chilling effect. And then who knows, I know that groups like, I think it's La Frontera and some other groups locally. I mean, this is definitely a good time to support abortion funds, reproductive justice organizations, their reproductive legal organizations that specifically help people navigating these issues. And I just want to, just highlight that these types of restrictions and the increased criminalization of abortion, whether it's through going to a clinic, whether it's helping someone at a clinic, whether it's, and some folks were saying like, oh, this is SB8. This, I saw a couple of doctors specifically or abortion providers, like folks who understand the Texas law saying like, this isn't necessarily a SB8 case, but the increased criminalization provisions in SB8 definitely heightened the atmosphere and feeling that people needed to act this way in terms of the hospital, whoever at the hospital, nurse, whomever, were the ones that reported Lizelle. I mean, and this is not the only person this happened to. Different people have accounts of, going in for a miscarriage or whatever the case may be. I think we had a woman some years back who was charged like 40 years. I'm blanking on names. I'm usually very good at names, y'all. So forgive me. But we, cancer brains sometimes, but we have these different accounts that have made it to the media and probably so many more that we don't actually know about of people going to seek treatment. Now, we do already know about the disparities in healthcare, particularly with Black and other women of color, and how they're seen as pain seeking or not taken seriously. But this is another side to that same disparity in healthcare, the racism in the medical, field itself. But some of these things that we have seen, I saw a really good point someone made earlier that, we're starting to see these attacks starting to happen on rural, low-income white women as well, right? So it's really, a sharpening of who people find desirable and how they're trying to curtail, restrict, and even eradicate their right to make decisions that exist. And
so would you say...
I'm going to go ahead, because I can just go on.
Yeah, I know. Look, me and you can just go on. Okay, it'll be a show for about 3-4 hours. But no. So would you say in this whole thing though, Noah, like for people who can't afford to even go and get abortions, it's not only something that boils down to people being just Black, but I know that it does affect the Black community in a major way. But there are a lot of people who of all colors, all races, all backgrounds who go and get abortions. And I think when we're setting limits or taking away women's rights or for that, getting abortions, I think what happens is, not that I know what's happening for people in certain communities who can't even go and get the help or get the assistance they need. They may go to the Black markets. They may go somewhere where they aren't able to, they don't. This is what happens when people can't get assistance, when we have people who want to rule women's bodies and take away their rights. Because sometimes an abortion is for other reasons. It could be health reasons. It could be reasons that they can't be, financial reasons. And I think that these are the conversations that lawmakers and our leaders who are pushing this abortion bill want to skip over. They never want to say how they would take care of somebody who is willing to. Are you going to take care of this person if health issues arise from this pregnancy? Are you going to help the person raise this child? Is there going to be a certain stipend? Are you going to help them place in a family? I'm talking about outside of a foster care. Are we going to do this from as soon as the child is birthed to the end of the child's life? What are we doing? What are we doing to not just say no abortions and you're going to jail because of this. What restrictions are being put on males in this moment? Like, there are so many things that they're not talking about to attach to this conversation, and it's just abortions are wrong. That's it. But there are so many things that go into people getting abortions other than just not wanting to have a baby and having unprotected sex. There's so much more. Rape. There are things that are associated with this that they don't want to have the conversation about. So it's a lot.
I mean, you're absolutely right. And just thinking about some of those issues you named, I mean, there was a recent report about the state of foster care in different parts of the country, right? Like, there are some places I think everywhere, severely underfunded, like so many other aspects of the social safety net. But when you're talking about like some of the policy proposals, I mean, no, this is all not going to be solved just with economics. But recently there was a group of lawmakers. There's actually a Black Women's Best. I think it's a Black Women's. I forget what the name of the caucus is. Y'all, my brain is a little fuzzy this morning.
That's okay, because you're dropping a lot of information on us.
There is a Black Women's Best report that was released about 2 weeks ago. I hopefully will have an article about this up later on today. But this Black Women's Best report that was released, it's actually proposing like an economic agenda that would like center, Black women. When we center people, closest to the pain and the problems, it helps address solutions and issues for all of us. Poorly paraphrasing, but y'all know what I mean. So, it goes through so many different areas, economic, criminal justice, healthcare, things that are just really intrinsic in helping to uplift people's lives. I mean, just even think about recently, right, with the child tax credit expiring. Yes, you can still claim it on your taxes, but that monthly rebate that was being given to parents, was seen as effectively reducing in a real meaningful directly, like right away felt way in terms of child poverty, which has automatically bounced back as soon as, it expired. And so just as, when you and Georgia were talking earlier about, justice and what has changed, when you have a system that is not built to provide justice and equity for all, you can't, there is no rest, right? You have to be constant with these prescriptions that are tweaking, changing, and adjusting the natural order of the existing system. And so, allowing things like the child tax credit to languish while at the same time trying to push and force people into parenthood, not providing for, better access to maternal health care. Like, there are standards around like Medicaid, providing Medicaid for mothers postnatal, like after they give birth up to a certain, I think it's like 24 months or something like that. You have some states like Georgia just pushed it to 12 months, but you have some states, because that prenatal care, when we're talking about maternal mortality and maternal health, it's not just like during the pregnancy itself, right? That aftercare is also equally important. And part of that aftercare also includes mental health, because postpartum depression is real. Like I myself, had postpartum depression. It was just like, well, I'm so proud, I'm young, I could do this, whatever, and did not necessarily get what I needed at the time in terms of supports. And so we need to make sure that there are all the different pieces, the more holistic approach to health, wellness, liberation, and justice. And that brings me to another topic. This is Black Maternal Health Week, originally established 5 years ago by Black Mamas Matter Alliance. It's an alliance of over 30 organizations committed to health, liberation, and justice, including the National Birth Equity Collaborative, reproductive justice groups like Sister Song. I mean, there's so many amazing organizations showing up this week through content and panel discussions, events in various places. I mean, check out Black Mamas Matter Alliance online. I'm actually hosting a panel, moderating a panel on Thursday afternoon, Thursday at 12, for the National Birth Equity Collaborative on, the politics of all of this and how.
Because you're a Black mama.
I'm a Black mama. I'm a Black mama.
You're surrounding this conversation that, okay, not only are you a mother, but we're talking abortion, we're talking all things maternity, we're talking all, these conversations.
All things health.
Yes, all things health for look, all year, every day, all year after that, we're gonna be celebrating Black people in these topics. And I think this conversation is deep, and coming from Black mamas and Black women who have lost children, or Black women who have had abortions, and just Black women in health, I think is a big deal. I almost think that sometimes it's put under the radar in discussions, although we know that there are major disparities when it comes to Black women in health, and us having to save ourselves every time. And I think you being a part of the panel, as you being Superwoman and dropping some gems for us to save ourselves in these times. So, it being, you said Black Women's Maternal, what is it?
It's Black
Maternal Health Month.
It's Black Maternal Health Week. This is Black Maternal Health Week. It is the fifth week. I believe. Yeah, it's the fifth. This is the fifth year that this has been an annual thing. This is actually the second year that the White House has recognized it through proclamation. There is actually a Black Maternal Health Caucus in Congress. I believe, Representative Alma Adams and Lauren Underwood have really been leading on the Momnibus bill, a series of pieces of legislation that I believe actually back when she was a senator, Kamala Harris, along with Cory Booker, and then also on the House side, you have, like I said, Rep. Adams, Rep. Underwood, Ayanna Pressley, and other folks who have tried to pull together different pieces of legislation. I mean, now you add to the ranks people like Cori Bush, and when people wonder about the purpose of some of these congressional elections that are coming up, you have representatives, you have state elected officials like Summer Lee and Attica Scott, Summer Lee in Pennsylvania, Attica Scott in Kentucky, who are looking to step up and move up to that next level at the congressional level to be a part of the push. Because, I know different people have different issues with folks in Congress, and I'm not going to be all like, oh my God, but they're perfect and they're our friends. But I do see the value of them driving particular conversations, of them pushing different things to a vote and building more of that capacity and coalition and understanding why this is important and why we need to be moving forward on, Black maternal health, because improving Black maternal health improves maternal health. Like the United States as an industrialized nation or whatever, I hate that antiquated colonialist language. I need to find better words than what the colonizers taught me. But we do understand, but we do understand, though, that, the United States, despite how great it supposedly is on paper, severely is lacking in terms of healthcare and other issues. And
but why is it important important to highlight Black maternal health?
I mean, specifically, when you see the disparities, Black women as compared to their white counterparts are 3 times more likely to have complications or die, and when we're talking about pregnancy and maternal health, right? And it's already higher, and it's high in certain states too. Mississippi is one of Mississippi, Georgia. These are some of the states that have, the highest rates of maternal mortality. These are also states that have refused to expand Medicaid. And then nationally, we don't have a universal healthcare system, right? Improving access to healthcare is only part of the problem, but we also need to improve, the quality of care that people are receiving. Folks who follow me or have heard my story know that I was diagnosed with a rare cancer 2 years ago. But for about a year and a half before that, I had complaints of, or maybe about 2 years before that, I had increasing complaints of pain, indigestion. I was told constantly it was just acid reflux, take this over-the-counter medication, whatever. Turns out I have this rare cancer that requires this really expensive treatment for me to function, right? Yeah. And so, but part of having someone take me seriously was having a white girlfriend when I got to the ER to make sure I was not only properly cared for, but actually admitted. And she literally stayed with me for the first 3 nights. So having that advocate, I'm not going to say it's only because she was white, but I definitely realized when she turned on her little baby Karen voice that it helped move us to the point where I was finally.
Yes. And that's another moment of you having to save yourself in that particular moment. You going to get assistance and you being told, no, I mean, it's not that. And then, you having to bring in, white Karen, your friend, to help.
I love her.
Get you.
She knows to check that Karen voice. She knows to. And she turned it on at the right moment.
And it benefits and it helps. And it's crazy because I know a few years back for me, when I was working at Like It or Not One, I had actually I was having these pains and I was like, gosh, what's going on? Finally went to the hospital, and they were like, oh, it's just a little pressure around your uterus. It's nothing that's, so serious. And I kept going back for that whole week. And when I told my boss at the time, they were saying, you know, that's not such a big deal. What's happening with you? It was debilitating that I had to sit through one show, like literally feeling a rupture happening down there around my uterus. And so when I finally went to the hospital that evening, they were like, oh my God, they rushed me to the back after sitting in that hospital area for about maybe like 8 hours. And just dying. I was like on my knees, and you guys know I don't do germs, but I was like on my knees laying on my sister's lap in pain. And when I finally went to the back, they were like, oh, yeah, we're going to have to do surgery on you right now. It looks like you had some tumors surrounding your uterus burst, and we're just going to have to do it right now, like right now. And I'm like, I've been going to the doctors for a week, and they've been saying, oh, it's nothing, it's whatever, it's nothing, it might be this, it might be that, telling me I'm having all kinds of diseases or I'm sick or whatever. And finally, when it got to that point, I was like, y'all, I had to push pause on getting the surgery. Why? I didn't have insurance. I didn't have insurance. So I had to go. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was going to say, Rebecca, I'm sorry to interrupt. Good morning to both of y'all. Rebecca, my niece went through the same thing recently, like maybe last year. She's 21 and complaining about abdomen issues so much. And finally, it got to the point to where she went to the hospital, was in so much pain. She's been passing out because she's in so much pain. Mm-hmm. Finally got to the hospital one day. The pain had gotten so bad, she passed out. They took her back there, and they discovered that she had things rupture in her fallopian tubes around the uterus and everything else. Yep. And had they not brought her to the hospital then, she would have passed away.
Yeah, and they kept sending me back home, and the pain. So I understand, and this is something that is pretty common. But when Black girls and Black women are going to these hospitals and showing that they don't have the funds to pay, they kind of write you off, and it becomes like, okay, she may or may not have the funds. I may or may not want to assist her, and that's pretty much what happened with me. And finally, I know I was talking to a few people, and I remember going in one time, didn't even know. I had to go and find a specialist and just go get insurance from the state. It didn't help me get exactly what I needed. But I had somebody who was like, okay, just go to the specialized hospital. When I went there, they almost treated me as a favor for a friend. We'll work on her as a favor for a friend. And I was going to doctor's appointments not knowing what they were going to do to me. Before the doctor's appointment, I would ask, and they would just say, yeah, just come in. And there was one time I had a biopsy done on me, and I had to go back to work. It was the worst pain ever. And I called Ben to tell him I was not going to be able to come back to work. And I just bust out crying because I didn't know that was what was going to go on with me. After the surgery, when I finally got the surgery, it was like a whole moment in that moment. I got the surgery. A white woman, when I opened my eyes, was the first thing that I saw. And then I had 3 Black nurses just coming out of nowhere. And the white woman was like, where y'all coming from? And they were just like, we're just going to take her to her room. And they were like, there is no room for her. They're like, well, we found one. When they brought me into the room, they were like, get up right now. You need to start walking. You need to start, I know that we got to get you into the bathroom. We got to get you to start walking, because what they're going to do is they're going to try to keep you here. They're going to start charging you more. They're going to start dragging you up a little bit more. And you just had surgery, but you're going to be good. I know I've gone through this myself. We got to get you home. We got to get those muscles worked out. You cannot be in bed all day. They saved me. They saved me from more bills, from me just sitting there. And they were like, you have to exercise that area. You got to rub it down. They gave me what I needed. I went home and everything was fine. And then I got a Black doctor who was telling me, after the fact, when I went to the doctor, they were saying they were still seeing cells and things like that, cancerous cells. And I got a Black doctor, and she was saying, well, let's go this way so that we can heal it. And I was able to, after 2 years of that, being able to get insurance and finding a doctor, a Black woman who can assist me to heal that. After 5 years, it's like the circle that we go through. So Black women are put on the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to getting health care, whether or not you have finances. I remember the story of Serena Williams constantly telling a doctor after her giving birth to her child, I'm getting blood clots. I got blood clots. And they're like, we know better than you.
Serena got way more money than both of us.
Exactly. So it's literally just us being Black women, and they just think, they're either strong enough or they ain't got the money. We ain't even gonna deal with them.
Well, when you also think about the trajectory of modern gynecology, right, and obstetrics, and how inherently racist its underpinnings are, and the exploitation of Black bodies to be able to create this area, it's not necessarily surprising. Like, I also have a Black gynecologist. This is why I'm leaving y'all early today, because she be booked and busy, and I need to see her. But I also appreciate, the fact that, and I'm not saying that non-Black gynecologists can't be good people either.
Right.
But at the same time, like, the value and how powerful it has been. I have another sister friend who is around my age who's saying the same thing. Like, she just found a Black gynecologist and absolutely loves having this Black woman. Like, my gynecologist and I are around the same age. So she also understands, from just being a peer, some of the issues and changes that are happening, right? I mean, we don't even talk as a society about what starts happening to women in general as we get older. And I think, these conversations, bringing it back to Maternal Health Week and some of the stuff that is going on for Black Maternal Health Week, these conversations about having holistic, approaches to dealing with our healthcare, that's why reproductive justice is such an amazing framework, because it looks at, the broader aspects of bodily autonomy and for people's decisions about whether to have families or how they have families and when they have families or what they will do after they are done having their families, right? I had my kids, young. I was 20 and 22 when I had my children. So by the time I'm in my early 30s and talking to a gynecologist and she's asking me about whether or not I want to have more kids, I was like, no, I'm good. I mean, my kids, like, by then my daughter was like 10, 12. And I was like, I cannot see myself doing this again. They're grown.
Girl,
he was like, oh.
Girl, I'm 30. I'm 31. I can't even see myself. Well, I want a kid, but girl, with the world right now, I'm just going to have to wait until the funds come in, a good man come in. But baby, I can't. I got to make sure kids are able to have health care and all that good stuff. I mean, it's so much. It's a big deal. It's a big deal.
It's so much to consider.
Yeah, with so much to consider, and we could talk about it for hours and hours, but we are coming up on Like It or Not right after this. And Noah, we still have you for a little bit longer, right?
You got me for another 30 minutes, honey.
Okay, got you for another 30 minutes. So next up, Olay is going to join the conversation, friend to the show, and also fellow attorney. Olay is going to be joining the conversation. Stay tuned for more Like It or Not, right after this on the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show.
Got a pack in the back and a seat on my left. What you wanna do, baby? You the best. Coming from the east, not the west. Southside got it written on my chest. And you know this.
All right, make sure that y'all stay tuned. We got more coming up with the ladies, y'all. We have Olay joining us during Like It or Not. Rebecca and Noah, man. Y'all stay tuned. Benjamin Dixon Morning Show. We'll be right back. Boondocks Dragon, good morning to you.
She said that she hate me, I hate me too. I can always tell when you're lying, girl, you're see-through. All these miles away, yeah, I just wanna see you. Baby, give me good faith, she hit me like seafood. Remember when I saw you, hi, it's nice to meet you. Know my old girl salty, she just wanna be you.
All right, y'all, make sure you stay tuned. Like It or Not. It's going down, coming up next.
Cause I've been a douchebag before, baby girl, I don't wanna repeat.
So I asked my friend Sam to sing a song about the iPhone and Samsung.
I take these drugs to my bladder. Yeah. She said she noticed a pattern. She say I look gorgeous. I tell her I'm flattered, but I hate my reflection.
And also, I wanted to thank everyone for sticking with me while I figured out the meaning of the committee. It means a lot.
Hate my reflection. When I look at you, all I see is perfection. I'm so depressed and I don't know the reason. Just hope I feel better.
My wife asked me to put ketchup on top of this. Now I can't read anything.
I just hope I feel better. that you love me, don't know if it's still true. Hate it when you're not here, love it when I'm with you. You say you don't trust me, all the shit we've been through.
I told my wife she needs to start embracing her mistakes. So she hugged me.
Baby, can you tell me why are you so vengeful? I don't understand you. I can't live without you, but I can't fucking stand you.
Ooh. If money doesn't grow on trees, then why do banks have branches?
In public on that like she upset, but I know she loves it. I hate my reflection, and I look at you, all I see is perfection. I'm so depressed and I don't know the reason, just wanna feel better. Hate my reflection, and I look at you, all I see is perfection. I'm so depressed and I don't know the reason, just hope I feel better.
Scientists have just discovered a fossilized dinosaur part. They say it's a blast from the past.
I just hope I feel better.
When my wife caught me standing on the bathroom scales, sucking in my stomach, she laughed. Ha! That's not going to help. I said, sure it does. It's the only way I can see the numbers.
9 a.m. to 10:30, yeah. Like it or not, is on your channel, yeah. Politics,
Ryan, good morning to you. Y'all know what time it is.
Yeah, interviews and all the news. We get to choose what gets the views. Like it or not, with Queen Azor, it's starting now, so stick around. Like it or not, it's going down. Like it or not, y'all stick around. It's come.
Just Hawks in my city, good morning to you.
You know she got a good story for you.
118 Country Boy, good morning.
That's my dog. This is his show. He's a politics bro.
There could be 100 people in the room.
DJ.
And 99 won't slap me.
DJ exclusive.
But one will.
Y'all know who I am.
I stay dropping them jams.
Like it or not, it's going down.
Chris Rock couldn't figure out why Will Smith was on stage walking his way.
Y'all stick around.
Then it hit him.
Oh, like it or not, it starts.
What do you call a typo on the tombstone?
Like it
a grave mistake.
It's about to go down.
Like It or Not with Benjamin Dixon starts now.
Hey, good morning. Look, I gotta say all parts. Good morning. Welcome to Like It or Not, where we're free to tell the truth and not care who doesn't like it. Today it is Ladies Takeover. It's just a ladies' night. And we have two great attorneys on the screen. I don't know, Olay, if you've ever met Anoa. I don't know if you ever met Olay, but Anoa is someone who has background in law as well as you. So, I mean, look, nice to put y'all together. Hey, what's up? Hello. I love it so much.
Morning.
How you guys doing this morning? I know I had to drag you out of bed, Olay.
No.
And Anoa.
So
I know you got things to do. Yeah. So, but thanks for being here with me on this morning. Georgia couldn't stay for the whole show, but she did start out the show. So it was really good. Hopefully one day we can all be on there. I absolutely love that throughout this whole, show today. Like I was telling Noah, it's funny because there are so many women in this space who do different things, right? In their career, who represent different things. We all look different. I mean, we may be black, but we all look different. All kinds of things. However, I love the different tones of voice, the different attitudes and personality, but it still gives me what I need, and I think in this space it's very important to understand that Black women aren't a monolith. They're not just one way, and even though it means that we're not just one way, doesn't mean that we can't all come together for the purpose of rooting for everybody good and Black, because everybody that's kinfolk ain't kinfolk. So yeah. So we got a lot to cover. I actually wanted to throw an audible. Over the weekend, I know that we didn't get an opportunity to discuss this. I know that you got to leave, so I wanted to get your conversation on Ketanji and her finally being confirmed, y'all. It's been a shit show to watch, really. Like her having to go through all of this hell and high water, while some people are saying it's due process, and us having to wait to see that moment for her. Yeah, so please, before we get to the clips of her finally being confirmed and those things, what was you guys' take for the whole process and us getting to this place finally? Especially you guys having, being attorneys. Olay, what was first to you? What was going through your mind through this whole process?
Listen, she's a Black woman going through this process, so I expected disrespect and racism it's nothing about it shocked me. Let me say that. That's what I expected. I knew the minute whoever they chose was going to have to put up with a series of disrespect that didn't make any sense. So that doesn't surprise me. I'm glad it's done for her, but I expected it. I anticipated it. I knew they were going to be mad. It is what it is. I'm I'm sure no one knows with Black women that have been in the legal profession. We know how it treats you. It's not even like it's just like that at that point. It's like that as a profession. It's filled with all kind of gatekeeping and all kind of disrespect and people who don't want to see you enter certain spaces. So that would have happened regardless if we were watching it on the confirmation hearings or not. So I'm just glad that she's done, and I don't have to spend my week arguing all over the news with all these people that are insisting that it's okay. So I'm just glad, good, she's done, she's in, and it's a beautiful win, because not for nothing, I'm a public defender. I didn't have any Black women public defenders or Black woman public defenders, Supreme Court justices to look up to. So I'm glad that Black women that are in law school now and that are going to go through the profession are going to have that. So I'm very happy for her. She's adorable. This is a win.
You're a Black public defender with two of my favorite characters in your background too. So I feel like we're going to be we're going to be instant friends. Yes. I love it. I just peeped the background. Yes. But I appreciate what you just said, Olay, especially hearing from you as a Black public defender, right? I as important as it is that she is, the first Black woman, it is so critical that she is a public defender and a Black public defender, right? Or that she had that experience as a public defender. And even as they try to distort that, right? They try to use that as a problem. Public defenders, and Olay can attest to this from your own experience, play such a vital and critical role. It is a constitutionally It's a constitutionally enumerated and protected role too, right? The right to counsel is in the Sixth Amendment, and Gideon v. Wainwright established, the right for those who cannot afford counsel to be provided. And then there's this history of the federal system, parallel, state and local systems creating, some hodgepodge of public defenders as well as private attorneys who are then contracted with to provide legal representation for folks who cannot afford it. And so having that mentality, which has not been on that experience that has not been on the Supreme Court since Thurgood Marshall left in 1991, because even though we get amazing dissents and powerhouse from Justice Sonia Sotomayor, Justice Marshall did do indigent defense work. Right. His time in private practice predates the Gideon case, but it's been so critical to setting the stage for other work that has come down the pipeline. So, but I agree. I absolutely expected it. The coverage is what bothered me, I think, more so than anything else. The reluctance to call it racism, the reluctance to really engage with Black media, of course, understands this, right? Black folks, Black women who are covering these things understand this, the misogyny, other things present, but the absolute like ridiculousness of claiming that she is like, pro pedophile or that she somehow was just disparaging all women, because majority of women, like with Senator Blackburn was going on this tangent of she was trying to deny a good Christian women their right to the First Amendment when we're talking about people harassing folks at abortion clinics, just the egregious lengths they went to disparage this woman because they actually had nothing. They had nothing.
They had nothing. Yeah, they had nothing. So they focused on, honestly, if we keep it real, the real reason they were even attacking the fact that she was a public defender is because the population that most benefits are poor Black and brown people. That's it. Absolutely. That's the real reason. That's the real reason. And that's why they tried to make her record a source of contention. That's what their real problem is. Because at the end of the day, right, the current president is a former public defender. And I didn't hear, that was a blip in the media. I didn't hear any media coverage devoted to criticizing him for being a public defender. No, because he has a tough on crime record. They don't expect him to come in and there be any benefit to Black and brown people. But here they get this Black woman and they say, oh, you've represented poor Black and brown people. You might have some compassion for how they're treated in the criminal system. We don't want that. We want to make this issue. And more importantly, it wasn't even just about discouraging her, trying to stop, because they knew she was going to get confirmed. What it really was about was reinforcing this idea that there was something wrong, like that there's something wrong with being sensitive or wanting to respect people's constitutional rights, or not being tough on crime, or not being as punitive as possible, which is something they want our criminal system to reflect, and that is what our criminal system currently reflects. But it doesn't have to be that way. It shouldn't be that way, and so they want to dissuade us from these notions of this progressive world that they think we're moving towards, which is why they tried to conflate every social justice movement with this woman. They asked her about every social justice movement and accused her of being the harbinger for them all. So that's what happened there. And
Olay, that's interesting that you put it that way, because I can tell you out of all of the Twitter takes and the conversations that have been surrounding that, I haven't seen anybody really flesh out that one where, it's simple, right? We've called it a racist situation. We've said that they put her on the cross for simply her being a Black woman that is going to be in this space, and it makes them uncomfortable. But honestly, the fact that she was somebody who represented and defended Black and brown people really killed them inside, because they understood. That's what it was. They understood. I haven't heard that talking point so much, and I think that is so interesting that you put it that way, because it's simply, that's why they were looking for things and issues. The fact that they said you are a public defender, that's problematic, but why wouldn't somebody start from the bottom? Now we hear, like, why wouldn't somebody be in a place where they represented people that other people wouldn't represent? Like that, that's helpful to know that there is somebody who can be in place, who understands what it's like to be there, who understands that there are some people who can't get the assistance, and they're in place to do so, to be a representation for those people. I think that is a great quality for someone who is going to represent this country in that way. And I think they try to villainize her. So they tried to vilify her. You know what? I really love that point that you made. It's so simple, but it's exactly what was happening before our eyes. They were so upset, and that's why they kept questioning her character and saying, you were here so that basically you represented Black and brown people. That means that in this court, if something comes across your desk, like a case of Dante Wright, you're going to look at it and you're going to see it for what it really is. And I think that's what they're so afraid of.
Yeah, notice the criticism was never about defense attorneys, right? I listened all week, and I listened to Ted Cruz's rant about public defenders. I listened to all the criticisms they had. They never made an overall sweeping argument about defense attorneys. They don't have any problem with private defense attorneys. They don't have any problem with you going and representing the people who have the means to pay you all kind of money and represent them no matter what they're accused of. They had no issue with that. They had a specific problem with public defenders. And what is the moral difference, right? Public defenders and private defense attorneys are all defense attorneys. We're all representing people accused of crimes, but you don't have a moral qualm with the people that are getting paid all the money. You have a problem with public defenders, so what's the difference? They represent poor Black and brown people. That was what your issue was. Because you know what I think is interesting? While people are always trying to create this moral divider between defense attorneys or public defenders versus prosecutors, most prosecutors go on to go do private defense. They do prosecution for a certain amount of years to give themselves a career and a way to go do private defense and make all kind of money. How come you don't have a problem with it there? Why is it not a problem? What is the moral outrage? It's because they represent poor Black and brown people. That's what it is. And so I was like, it's the loudest dog whistle of all time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's just Beautifully.
Go ahead, Noah.
Now, I was just going to say, absolutely, that's just beautifully said. And the other thing Olay mentioned about conflating all the different social movements as her, I mean, during the testimony, during the confirmation, the GOP actually had a GIF that like crosses out her initials and replaces it.
And but CRT.
Right? I mean, in their talking points, they're literally like connecting her to all of these different things that are at the top of their 2022 midterm election like battle cry. I mean, and you mentioned Ted Cruz. I don't know what it was like for you in law school, but I know I absolutely have classmates like him or colleagues from my law school, fellow alum, who would do the same thing, who would try to pretend like, oh, I'm being civil, because we kind of knew each other in law school. Now I'm going to sit here and attack your character and everything you do and misrepresent stuff, even though my kids also go to a school that has a social justice commitment, as I'm sitting here reaming you for this private school that you sit on the board of, right? Like the lengths that they went through during that process, it not only showed us who they were, but it reaffirmed what we know is the strategy going into the midterm elections. We saw Virginia, former Democratic candidate, Terry McAuliffe, one-time governor, fail miserably on responding to CRT, and other Democrats around him failing to address that attack, right? And the situation isn't that, oh, we should call it something different. No, we're not going to let you denigrate decades of Black scholarship, Black legal scholarship, and say it needs a different name. It needs better branding. No, it don't. Ain't nothing wrong with it. No. Ain't nothing wrong with Derek Bell's work.
They don't even know what it is.
They don't even know what it is. You won't put some respect on Derek Bell's name. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm not saying that anybody's perfect, but you gonna put some respect on Derek Bell's name.
They don't even know who my man's is. Like, they don't know what critical race. Yo, listen. What I find so frustrating about Democrats is they allow Republicans to play this game and gaslight everybody in their face and stuff. Just start calling stuff what it is. Start saying to these people, first of all, you don't know what you're talking about, and second of all, it's not relevant. What we do is we get bogged down in this dance with them while they're asking the stupidness, and we need to start saying, how is that relevant to anything other than you created that talking point? Because we need to be transparent. Too often, people in these media spaces and people in these political spaces are not being honest. Let's say what happens. These people sit around each other, they have a group, they have whatever it is, and they create talking points. They talk about what their base is, what their base is looking for, what their overall strategy is, and they say, listen, we're going to argue with this, we're going to say this, we're going to focus this, we're going to get caught up in the weeds. They have a strategy. And why are we playing games? Their strategy. That's what it is. They don't know what any of these things are. These are not, listen.
And they've been playing the long game for a long time.
They'll stick to it. They will stick to this certain strategy, like you said, Olay, and it is a long game, Noah. It's like they will stick to it. And you would think on the other side, when it used to be like really a clear divide, now there's blurred lines. Because the other side, they'll try to play the same game, but then it just like they can't take the heat. But those people will devise a plan while their whole state is going down in flames, while they freeze to death. You know what I'm saying? While they can't get no health care, while there is there's no initiative when it comes to COVID for their people, while they're pushing people back into the offices. They'll go and focus on things like, let's bring this woman down. We cannot vote for her. We have to go and make our talking points include, and their talking points be dumb as hell. We have to make sure the talking points include. We got to make sure the talking points include that we say that, Ketanji is somebody who is qualified in some way, shape, or form, but we make sure we say we will not vote for her. It's so stupid, but they really will power up on that. They will Megatron on that, and they'll form an alliance together.
People out.
Yeah, and they'll put an alliance together to make sure they put her down, they chop her at the knees. Yeah.
And even allowing them to do that, right? Like, oh, she's really qualified, but I just can't bring myself because of her ideology. What ideology? Like, what ideology? What ideology?
We need to start calling people racist. I do not understand why America is so comfortable with making the environment comfortable for people to be racist, for people to say racist things, for people to do racist things, for people to subject you to racist discrimination. But then the problem is, if you say it's racist, like, you're supposed to sit there quietly, start saying it. I don't know why we play this game with them, because that's what it is. It's this game where they get to be as loudly unprofessional, unacceptable, egregious in this public space, and our response is to say, And to, get in our little private, we respond quietly and respectfully, and we don't call it what it is, and we get in our little private circles, and then we kind of say what it is. No. We got to start addressing them from the jump because they're not prepared for the address. They're not prepared to be addressed that way, and we need to start saying it. The same way they don't have no problem coming out there and showing their ass with their talking points of silliness. We need to start saying, you know what? Right quick, Ted Cruz, could you do me a favor and define critical race theory? Could you do me a favor? Could you tell me when you first stumbled upon it? Could you tell me what are the specific issues you're having? Could you tell me how it's being implemented at these schools? Ask them. Start the same way they don't have any problem putting us on trial for every little thing they come up with their mind and asking us about a bunch of things that are not even in our purview. The things they decide to bring to the table, you know what? Listen, I'm listening. You have the floor now. You have such a problem with critical race theory. Could you please articulate to me exactly what it is and what your problem is with it? And when you're done with that, could you please tell me the relevance to today's proceedings? That's what we need to start having these people do. But instead, we play the game with them. We start doing it. We start defending. We need to start calling what it is. All of this critical race theory attack and all of this, that has been nothing but a big dog whistle for how we suppress Black authors, suppress the social justice movement. That's all it is. The same way everything that they're doing with abortion got nothing to do with being pro. Yes, that's all it is. That's why isn't it convenient that they literally just picked every marginalized group and whatever they think are flagship causes, they think, because critical race theory is by no means a flagship cause in the Black community.
It's a very niche.
It's a very niche
concept.
Highly niche. It's a scholarly thing.
Most law schools don't even have a racism in a law class, let alone a discussion of critical race theory.
There is a lot in education that does not include CRT. If you went to school here, you know that it's like, me too, I wish I was raised on a little bit of CRT. You know what I'm saying? In my system, I had to go get that from my house. I had to go get that from my household. And then I had to go to an HBCU to just get it every day, not knowing what it's CRT, just knowing that there is Black education, there is Black history, there are many things that have happened in this world that surround Black people or Black culture or whatever the case may be. It doesn't mean that it's un-American. It doesn't mean that it's throwing sex into the face of your kids. It doesn't mean any of those things. It just means that there are Black people who did things in America and we should be learning about it. Whatever these people want to decide, because they let us read books about racism, about Black folks being basically.
Yeah, they don't have a problem telling you was a slave. They don't have a problem. They don't have any problem telling you was a slave. But they have so much of a problem with you saying who enslaved you and why it was wrong, and what the collateral consequences of that is. That's exactly what we need to start. Listen, I am all for the position of calling out hypocrisy and starting to frame these Republicans' arguments against them. That's why anytime you say I go on somewhere else, like when I wanted to talk about them being anti-choice, because pro-life is just not even the truth. But anyway. Right. I frame that as judicial activism because that's what they're looking for. Let me use your words, the things you all don't like, your terms, because it's inconsistent. Which is it, right? Either you believe the parents have the absolute right to upbringing their children and the government shouldn't be involved. This is the next thing. So then why is it that you have something to say about what private schools are teaching their kids, what the curriculum is? You worried about the schools, you trying to ban books. What about that is giving you anybody that wants autonomy? For somebody that don't like big government and don't want the government involved and believe that children should be raised by the home, why do you have so much to say? Why do y'all have so much to say and so much to offer except the people that need your resources? There are a whole kind of, we have thousands and thousands of children in America that are in the foster care system, that are put up for adoption, that need resources, that are living beneath the poverty line, that are subjected to the school to prison pipeline. Why are you not worried about them? The only children you seem to be concerned about are the ones whose parents are educating them in a particular way you don't like, or the ones who are not in existence yet? Is that not an obvious hypocrisy and inconsistency? We have to start saying it. Instead, what we do is we allow Republicans to have no respect for anybody else's cultural practices, anybody else's identity, the way anybody lives their life. None. And then all of a sudden we get into this sensibilities game that we can't tell them that they're uneducated. We can't tell them that we're racist. Why not? Yeah, we have to be as educated as possible, and they get to come up here and question our credentials. So we need to start calling it what it is. Ted Cruz and them don't know their ass from their elbow. Why are we listening to these people?
When they go low, we go lower. I know that she said when they go low, we go high. That's Michelle, but we're not in that era no more. We are in 2022. Love you, mean it. But we're going to go to the grave. Like, we're going to take it low. Boots with the fur. Low. Noah, thank you so much for being here today. She's going to have to step away. We're going to take a brief break. We're going to be back
Bye,
Yeah, we're gonna be back with
Olay.
Olay.
We gonna holler. And I love you, Rebecca.
Y'all gotta get together. It's good stuff. Both of y'all. You need to follow her on Twitter. You follow her on Twitter because then your timeline will definitely be blessed and highlighted. Both of you guys. So yeah, we're gonna take it to the a break. But thanks to Noah for being here with us. More ladies take over, like it or not, right after this.
Done this before you fall. I won't catch you, don't know I'm stalling. Cause you love to have them all crying. Calling me sweet, telling me you need me. Said I'm from a city that's high school. I give them this anymore, I go. Cause you a bad man, she don't love money. She break grass real fast like conman. When I swim down to the deep end, wanna know all my secrets, honestly. Can you keep it real? Cause honestly, I can tell that you're real fond of me. Baby, don't be shy. I can see it in your eyes. I've been running around. Too bad, I've been sticking out your mind. I know you like it how.
All right, y'all. Y'all make sure y'all stay tuned. Had to change my camera battery. Y'all make sure y'all stay tuned, man. More likely than not, coming up next. My Rebecca and Olay. Y'all make sure y'all stay tuned.
How you taking all my time? Left, right, can you take it all night? Take it, baby, I ain't scared to take it. Oh, and maybe when I take it, oh, I feel it coming down too strong. Cause I want ya, it is hard to resist cause I need ya. And it's hard to be cause I believe ya. Hold me tight, pulling on tonight. Holding a couple, don't get to your clean and proper. Way I move, I know you can love her. You gonna me on your mind forever, ever. Thanks, baby. Turn it down like it's sweet and ready. Go slow, keep it nice and steady. Know that you've been keeping patience. Too bad I've been sticking out your mind. I know you like it how I rock it from behind. I know you stand how you taking
JB, absolutely it does.
Too bad I've been sticking out your mind. I know you like it how I rock it from behind. I know you stand how you taking all my time.
Hey, David, you good up there, David? I just got a story saying multiple people shot in unexploded devices found in New York. Yeah, make sure that everybody's good up there in NY, man. Okay. All right, y'all. Welcome back to the screen. Rebecca and Olay. Good morning, Olay.
Good morning.
Good morning. Listen, we are at the end of it all, but
A nice little show.
Hey, hold on.
There you go.
Okay, I've been doing this. I've been doing this all, like, I don't know, ever since, my nails been green. They've been hitting the microphone, like, and just really cutting me off. So they're more claws. I'm gonna cut them down for Easter. But yeah, I've been grabbing the mic. I've been doing all of these things. Anyways. But yes, we're at the end of our ladies takeover. I hope that we can do so much more of this. But before you get out of here, Olay, I wanted to discuss this particular story. It's been making its rounds. And before I wanted to talk about it, I wanted to get more and see if it was really what it was, because it was giving me that it wasn't a real story at first, and I wanted to make sure it was a real story. And it's about an OnlyFans star. Her name is Courtney Taylor. She killed her boyfriend. She murdered her boyfriend. She stabbed her boyfriend in what they're saying was an unprovoked attack. When it first initially hit social media, it was just like I couldn't believe it. But I can. This was, this was on April 3rd. They say it's reported that the 25-year-old blonde, who's an OnlyFans model and has millions of followers on social media, she killed her boyfriend Christian Tobichukwu. I don't know his name, but we know he's African. Who was 27 years old during a dispute at their high-rise apartment in Miami. Investigators say that he was stabbed once in the chest and had been involved in a physical altercation before the killing. They let her go, right? They just let her go. And her camp is now reporting that she stabbed her partner in self-defense. They let her go that same night. You can see her on video. There's videos around that she had right here. That she's bloody here. And then they also said that it was a mental situation. She was going through a mental breakdown. Here you can see her, like with her pet here. And then they let her go. Is that a corgi? Yeah. So the next following day, I think she was spotted, if we have that video, of
at the bar?
At the bar with her father just chilling. And now, I think yesterday, it was being reported. Does that have sound, Dwayne? Because I want you guys to hear the eyewitness.
This is just...
Okay, so in the sounds, you can hear the eyewitness saying, "Well, what are you doing here? You just killed your boyfriend. You just murdered your boyfriend. What are you doing here?" She tells her father not to respond to the eyewitness, and they're just shocked that she's able to just be out for free when she was supposedly in a mental state where she could not handle what was going on, yet she's out at the bar. Olay, what is your take on all of this?
Okay. All right. Let me give it all to you, because a lot of things can be true. A lot of things are true, right? I know the popular opinion on this on social media, as far as I know, Black women, our collective group has decided online that they're not really advocating for this guy because he's anti-Black woman, right? He posted a bunch of tweets like 10 years ago being anti. Yeah. So let me just say this. I think that's a valid. Listen, no one has to advocate for anybody. There's a lot of work, a lot of things, and a lot of tragedy in the Black communities. I can understand you trying to ration out your supporting your activism. So I am not going to indict Black women and act like they need to feel compelled to defend this man. However, now that being said, that's aside. The community is let off the hook. Now let me talk. This right here, this is the clearest example of exactly how this criminal system moves with white people. It does not matter whether or not, even if she claimed it's self-defense, even if she was having mental health issues, whatever it may be, if she were anybody else, those would be arguments for trial. Those would be arguments her lawyers would be trying to make. She still would have been arrested. She would have been charged. She would be looking with murder. With murder. She would never be the fact that this woman was not even charged is a reflection of how our criminal system disproportionately works, because you and I both know it don't matter what nobody does to me. If I stab a man to death right now, I'm going to jail. I'm going to jail. I'm going to fight that. I'm going to have to fight that. My lawyers can make those arguments, but I'm not going to just be free to be able to go to the bar and go do whatever it is. Even maybe, now it's a different conversation. I wouldn't be indicting them if they had arrested her and she was out on bail. That would be a different circumstance. But here, they're just taking at face value, a Black man is dead, and this white woman says, "Oh, he started it," or "I was defending myself." So it's just, we just let her off, no charges, no proof, no anything. She's just out and free. That 100% is, that's unjust. That's unjust. That is racism. That's a reflection of our system being unfair. So anybody who has that criticism for it, totally, totally legitimate. That's where I stand on that.
Yeah. No,
but I'm not surprised. But I am not surprised. I want to say this. I represent. Whenever, it's very rare. I could count for you how many times I've represented a white lady. Okay, and ain't not a one of them ever gone to jail. Not a community service. Not a fine child. Okay, not a one. Anytime I see, it's very rare you see a white lady in the court. White woman privilege in criminal court is different. It's built different. It's way better than anything the white man got. Okay, if you see a white woman in court, she did that shit.
Yeah, no, that is something that the fact that you pointed that out, that you had white women that you represented and they ain't never gone to court, and they ain't never really had to see no jail bars or nothing like that. Nothing. They never really had to just talk about their issues, because it is a systemic thing when the person happens to be especially a white woman. This is somebody that we've seen. While we've seen his tweets from 2015, from years ago, because they're 26, it's young, right? And so for 10 years ago or whatever, they're 15 years old, they're in high school, whatever preference they think they want at that moment. If y'all would have saw what I was saying in high school, my beliefs, where I stood on things, you know what I'm saying? We would have, y'all would hang me on the cross, but to hold him, these are some really spicy tweets, but he was a kid.
Hold on, pause it. Don't move the tweets. Let me read the tweets. Child. Ignorant child. Girl.
Oh, you haven't seen these tweets in person?
No, I did see a couple, but I saw them. I look, when the beautiful white girl.
So let me read a few.
And we have the statement from the brother after this.
So he says, "I want a white girl help." He's asking for help to get a white girl. He says when the beautiful white girls. Beautiful white girls wear yoga tights. Excuse me. I had to laugh about that, but he's dead. I can't do that. See, why y'all got me doing this right now? White girls wearing white booty shorts everywhere. Get that off the screen. Listen.
You know what I think is so funny? You know what I think is hilarious about this? Yeah. Oh, I can't say all the things I want to say, but I will say this. This is what I think is so funny in this particular white girl. I went on her page, whatever, right? A very enhanced white lady. They talk so much foolishness on Black women, right? And let's acknowledge there was a time at Twitter where it was very popular for people to just be insane. Like, Twitter culture has changed over the years. Not to say I will ever give anybody a pass for cooning, because that's what he was doing. But as far as with this white lady, you talk all this on Black women just to get a white lady that has gone and got lip fillers and all these different things and tanners to do her very best to look like a knockoff Black lady. And now she stab you to death. That's crazy.
But he was 15 years old. I don't know what he was doing with his life, and he probably, experienced something different. I don't know what his tweets look like in the last few years of his life as he's been.
I know what his girl looked like in the last few years of his life.
I know what the girl started to change and morph into. I know that I saw her podcast. So while the tweets of him are going viral,
she's a podcast.
If we look at, she doesn't have a podcast. She was on a podcast because they give Black men who want to bash Black women microphones in this space to win. But anyways, they had her on this podcast, and so she was saying, he was saying, what type of women do you like? Or excuse me, what type of men do you like? And she says, I like them Black. I like them rich. And then she's like, well, let me say, I like them Black and rich. I like them Black and rich. I like them Black with money. And, as I begin to watch her say that, she said, I only date those kind. I mean, she is the whitest of the whitest. I'm talking a blonde, white, and she gets to sit on here on a Black man's podcast and just tell people that she likes Black rich men. Damn it, the feds is coming in. But, as I say this to say that we're so focused on his tweets from 2015, but are we looking at her statements and what she's been doing? And then in that same thing, as I changed my battery out, in that same podcast, she stated that she likes to be the aggressor in every situation when it comes to relationships. She will only be submissive, of course, in the bed, but she said, other than that, I run things. If you're not listening to me, it's going to be a problem. So watch as this woman speaks about that as we're posting his tweets from 2015. And also look at the fact that she finished stabbing this man. She went to go cuddle with her pet as she was in handcuffs. Cops let her go, saying that it was a mental issue. And then she went to go have a drink at the bar in Miami, in an area where she killed her then boyfriend. Olay, take it away as I change my battery.
I'm really trying to fight the spirit, the spirit of an old Black lady in my soul, being like, well, that's your gal. You shouldn't be messing with the white girls. And I'm really trying to fight it. I'm really trying to push it down to be like, she still murdered him. She's still wrong. I think, listen, the problem is this with what she's saying versus what he's saying is the reality is we don't not expect that from this white lady. You know what I mean? No one is shocked by what she said and what she did. Everybody's shocked about his conduct and what he said. And it's like, because it makes you be like, okay, on one word, it's like, yes, I can very much so see that this is an extremely problematic white woman, if by nothing else, by the fact that she murked her dude, right? Like, if nothing else gave it to me, the fact that she stabbed her dude to death, that gave it to me. But it's like, on one hand, I as a Black, and I get it from other people's perspective, I'm always going to call out, injustice as it is. And this is that, right? This no matter what, even if all the tweets from 10 years ago are still how he felt present day, and he's still that person, he still does not deserve to die, and he still does not deserve to be killed by this girl, and he doesn't deserve to have to live, to have been a victim in a criminal system that will not acknowledge that this injustice happened against them or punish this girl or whatever it is. None of that is fair. And so that is still true fundamentally. But on the flip side of that, you knew this gal was, hey, so all these podcasts, this problematic white girl, this is who you was choosing to, lay up in bed with and do this and the next thing or whatever. And these are these are not fair consequences of those actions. Let me just say that. It's not at all.
Because she gets to cry.
It's hard for me to indict, for me to legitimately go on a soapbox and criticize, point out all the ways in which this white woman is terrible because the Black man that I'm doing it on the behalf of was down for that. You know what I mean? You down for that. You like that. You like how this lady is conducting herself. And so, and to me, and there's another thing is like, based on what I'm seeing you said about Black women, would you have accepted the same conduct and rhetoric from a Black woman? But at the same time, then it comes down to, I don't want to hold Black people responsible for internalized anti-Blackness, because that's what that is. Everywhere that's coming from, the way in which he's clearly putting this white lady on a pedestal and he's putting Black women down is because of something he's been taught. And he believes that it is some kind of social status reflector to be with this white girl, or what that says, or it's different, because he would judge the same conduct based on what I see and he said about Black women. He would have so much to say, but clearly just the fact that she's white makes it acceptable or tenable.
He doesn't have anything to say right now because he's dead. She done stabbed him and he is gone. So that is that, and somebody said in the
Rebecca, you can't just say Rebecca, stop it.
Rebecca, that was terrible. That was horrible.
Rebecca,
I'm sorry.
I just had to come in and say that was horrible. Okay.
He is gone.
I will say this. Somebody said in the comment section that he needs to get out. He can't get out because he's under now. All due to this white woman who gets to he can't say nothing from the grave. What she can do though is say Karen. She can say privilege. She can say he hurt me. Who is not going to believe a white woman? Who's not going to believe a white woman that
made her do it out to be an aggressor? She plays a white. Listen, and I represented it in court, so I already know. All right, I represented a white girl who came and presented me the defense child. She did that. She's that's the funny thing. It's like, no matter how much she's doing all this decoration and trying to make herself something else, and no matter what pedestal he's put on, whatever they're doing, at the end of the day, she is still fully aware of what her social standing is as a white woman, because it didn't take her nothing but a millieffing second to put that story into place. Immediately, man, dead, bloodied, stabbed him up. It's not really. It's not giving. I'm having a hard time. Listen, that's a big. Have you ever been in a battle with a man?
I need you.
To drop on him. It's not giving me that he was the. You got to drop on him, sweetie. You stabbed him and just killed him. It's not really giving me what you're saying. It's giving me. And also, I hate that they never do this. Whenever we talk about white people in self-defense, the proportionality standard always seems to fly out the window. Self-defense is not, Rebecca, if you say to me, you're going to slap me, or like you said, I make a slap you, I cannot shoot you. I can't stab you. That's not proportional self-defense. I could grab your hand. I could slap you. I could maybe punch you or something proportional to stop that. But you can't just say, hey, we would have an argument. He was the aggressor, whatever. Some. So I stabbed him to death. Did he threaten to stab you, sweetie? At any point,
but when it's a white woman, but when it's a white woman or a white person, even, it's just kind of like, but they find reasoning or not. It's like how it's two things. We've seen how police deal with white people when they do, like I'm talking, committing domestic terrorism. We see how cops and leaders just be like, oh, that's crazy. Right? But a black person at the hand of it, we're going to see it stapled, taped. We're going to see what the person looks like, the representation. We're going to see and know their history. The first picture that they're going to show is them looking like bad little kids, or
could you imagine if it had been reversed? And then, could you imagine?
We're going to see something different.
Stabbed and
this girl is a OnlyFans model. She's an OnlyFans model.
He'd be under the jail. He'd be under the jail. He'd be under
exactly. So
the
what
jail.
The problem is that I see here, and then they will be like, we would know what she looks like. We would everything. But the problem that I have here with this whole thing is how white women can just say he whistled at me, lie about it, no kind of evidence or nothing. And I'm taking it back to Emmett Till, a whole little black boy, a black boy, and they can say that this happened. There is no evidence, no anything, and then live their lives, go out and live their lives, have a whole family while somebody's child was taken from them. And then we're looking at, fast forward to today with this OnlyFans model and this young fella in Miami. She got to go to sleep, wake up the next day knowing that she stabbed somebody covered in his blood, and go to sleep the next day, wake up, be with her family, and go get a drink at the bar.
Yeah, that don't shock me now, because you know what we've learned here? I hate to say it, but there's just no loyalty, no comfort, and no solace in cooning. These are because even if, listen, Even if the consequences, you don't deserve to be killed. But the reality is that when you don't have any solidarity with your community and you because you think it's to your advantage to criticize your community and criticize Black women and whatever it is, you want to go be adjacent to this white lady and stuff. What happens is when you inevitably suffer the consequences of living in a racist country, because you do, and you will experience that. It doesn't matter what you would say as a Black person, say what you want, do what you want. You are still Black and you will still always be on the receiving end of some racism. What will happen is your community doesn't show up for you. And that's unfortunate. But here's the thing is our community is full. We have our dance card is very full with tragedy and injustice and things that we have to advocate around and stuff like that. So I cannot even in good faith tell Black women that already spearhead the movement on every kind of social injustice for us, every kind of Black person is wrongfully killed, every kind of police brutality, Black women are at the forefront, championing that and shedding light on the fact that it's unjust. And, I know that here we are, two Black women talking about it, and I ain't seen nobody else, decide to talk about it anywhere publicly or make the noise. And still, even with those reservations, we're still like, this is unjust. So let's say this, because it's always us doing that. So the consequences are, your community don't show up. They decide, they pick and choose, Listen, I can't take that on. This was a person that is completely dispelling or dismissing the reality of racism. And you want to go be kikied and laid up with this white woman. And based on the conduct that we've seen from you, it looks like if it had not been you, it had been a different situation and stuff, you probably wouldn't have had too much to say. So I can, in good faith, be like, listen, ladies, we gotta go to war for this one right here. I feel bad for him. Don't get me wrong. I still think he's a young kid. I still think that I don't think Black people are to blame, and don't get me wrong, and that's hard for me to say because I don't like Kunin, but I don't think Black people are to blame for internalized anti-Blackness and for the different ways in which that's acted out. That is the country and the society that we live around and how that comes about. So I don't want to blame this young kid that he's making decisions based on whatever is the world, how it was treating him. And it's unfortunate that he has those tweets and all these different things that are leading, people to say, no, I'm not going to show up for you. But those are the consequences. And for those of you that are still there, because he's not the only one. There's a tribe. He is from a tribe of Black men that have them a problematic white girl next to them doing the same thing.
They on the podcast. They got the mics in their hand. They not working. They don't put the mic down
and pick up a book.
They go. Girl,
that's what you need to do.
All they got to do is go on to the internet and say, Black women are trash. And then they get all these views. They just say, Future is a god. They get all these views. Yeah. They get all the girl. They just be like, we don't wash our ass. They get all these views. It's crazy. It's crazy. That's and they don't need no mic in their hand. They don't need no mic in their hand. But this is what we have. So you're right though. In this particular space, I ain't even mad at the people who feel like they do. My mind.
I got it. Yeah, you got to.
Yeah, but my mind goes straight to justice, though, because if he was a regular person that wasn't killed by this white woman and was killed by a cop, I would still want. I'm shooting. I'm like, I don't care. He needs justice because we can't. This is the same thing. If this white woman wins in this particular situation while the world is watching, imagine all the other ones that's going to be waiting to be like, shoot, I could do what she did. You know what I'm saying?
I'm sure we ain't even heard of it. I'm sure it's happening all the time. And we don't even, and we're not even hearing about it. And we're not this. But listen, here's the gag. Let me tell you something. I live in a world where if I were to say tomorrow that I had like a white boyfriend or something, which I don't, but if I said that, they would, and I know because I've been on the experiencing and I've been on a podcast where I just was sitting next to a Black woman that made a joke that Black men were able to, they extrapolated to infer that she might date only white men or something. And they called her and me and every Black woman that was on their bed went for 3 days, full 3 straight days. So I know how the world responds to Black women when we are so much as just romantically involved with a white man. We don't got to say one disparaging word about Black men or anything like that or whatever. So let me tell you something. I can't jump up for this man too much like that. Like, you know what? Like,
we don't have anything to say, but there needs to be justice here. But everything else I have to say, I don't want to speak about his characteristics. And those tweets are from 2015. Now, his choice to be with the white woman is his choice.
I have no issue. White woman. It's the white woman. It isn't.
I would say I have no issue with white women, but when you choose a certain type of person, period, I don't care what it is, but they can turn off and turn on whatever they want to. Like, they will use their whiteness to privilege them when they are abusing Black people or people of color. They can use their whiteness to get them out of any situation. And I think that is something that we need to understand. I have dated a white person and I've seen him switch on and switch off that whiteness in him. Okay,
For sure.
so so I've seen it done in places where my blackness is very huge in that area, is very apparent, it's very prominent. I've seen him utilize his whiteness to protect me. So in this particular, that was back when I was a little thing. I can't do that in my life today.
If you dated a white man right now and you got on Twitter, Rebecca, and you was like, fuck black men, pop, this exactly. He was talking real spicy. If he murked your ass, you wouldn't hear but a whisper.
No. Girl.
I lied. You wouldn't hear about it because you would become the photos, the cause of like, you see that? You see what happens to them? Like that's how they was giving up. And you know
nothing. We wouldn't hear a thing. Just like the girl who went on the Bumble date. We haven't heard about that case since. That strange Bumble date with that white man, and the white man,
exactly. And he killed her.
Police up and said, seemed like a good guy. That's it. And went on about that day.
That's how they go.
Yeah.
That's how they go. Yeah. And you got to know that when you listen, you can't choose these people that are fetishizing you. And you know what? On the flip side of this is, I mean, he was fetishizing her too. It's a relationship filled with problematic racial ignorance, and you know what? I can't get into these people's business. I cannot I will always call injustice what it is. If somebody that is that, it is still unfair. His family, he deserves support. I'm not one of those people that's going to be like, no one should criticize. Like, I'm not going to criticize people for supporting him or people for rising above and saying, these are tweets, this is whatever. Because if we got into the business of only defending Black people, only caring about racial solidarity and racial justice, only when the Black person themselves is perfect or all their views were unproblematic, we're going to run into problems. Hopefully, preferably, they not be like a string of anti-Black women tweets that we could pull up. That's not best. But we shouldn't necessarily get into the business of policing it like that. I still believe, he deserves support, and he deserves his family to rally behind him. But at the end of the day, if you don't support community don't support you. So if in your life, it's unfortunate he's young, he's this, but from what we can tell, I'm not even talking about the past. At the end of the day, the tweets or whatever, I could dismiss that. But the present day, based on, that tweet, that background, your present day choice in women and how you appear to be living based on what this woman is saying, because I don't know a Black man that feels strongly about his community and Black people and stuff that's going to be too hype about no white lady. He's been being like, oh yeah, I want rich Black men. Could you imagine? They wouldn't even like that I as a Black woman can't even say I want a rich Black man.
No,
without
we can't.
getting
Girl, we can't say that.
I can't say that.
We will be murdered. No, we can't say that because now they're going to be like, oh, she's a gold digger. Yeah. But anywho, it is so much that we can get into this. I think that we can agree that he does deserve justice. His brother has put out a statement, with saying basically what you were saying, and the fact that we have to rise above a certain level and get the justice, because if we continue on just this one conversation about his tweets from 2015, we're not going to get anywhere with it. There's a white woman on the loose. There's a white murderer who is free. She's on the loose. Somebody go tame her. Somebody get her, put her under the jail, because we need to make an example out of situations like this. Because like you said, this has probably been happening, but now it is in the news. It is in our eyes. It's because of us that we've made this story viral. Whatever side we were on of it, the story has been pushed forward because we've been talking about it. So I hope that he does get justice. His family does get justice. And be careful what y'all tweet online. Now, before we get out of here,
community.
Yeah, before we get out of here, there's so much that's happening. I know that you are in New York, both of you guys, David, both of you and Ole are in New York. It's a breaking news right now. People were shot. Undetonated devices were found in Brooklyn subway. Multiple people have been shot in Brooklyn. Yeah, subway station. And several undetonated devices were also found in the location, according to fire officials and 3 law enforcement sources. They stress the investigation is preliminary. At least 5 people were said to be shot by a man about 5 feet 5 inches tall, 180 pounds, who was wearing a gas mask and an orange construction vest, according to 3 senior law enforcement officials. He fled the scene and has not been caught. Several law enforcement sources say the shooter may have thrown a device before opening fire at the 36th Street and 4th Avenue station in Sunset Park around 8:30 a.m. today. The extent of the victim's injuries are not yet clear, but the story is still developing. You guys be careful out there, both you and David. I know David said he's not in Brooklyn, but I know you in Brooklyn. Just be careful out there. People in the streets are psychopaths. They're crazy. Please be careful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. We'll be covering more. We'll be as the story develops. We definitely be covering it right here on Like It or Not. But we are at the end of the show, and thank you, all the ladies. Georgia, thank you for pulling up. Noah, thank you for pulling up. And Olay, always. It's always a great time with you, Mama. We have such a good time. We can make politics fun. We can make the news stories fun. Be careful, like I said, in New York. I will see you next time. Go and be great on Twitter and all them other spaces that you take over. Love you, mean it.
I will. Bye, boo. Love you too.
All right, y'all. Thank y'all so much for tuning in today for the ladies only episode. Shout out to Georgia, Rebecca, Noah, and Olay for joining us this morning. Definitely need to do this. It was a moment of movement. Black beauty on the screen, and we love to see it. Shout out to y'all, man. Anyway, again, we will be here tomorrow, same bat time, same bat channel. Y'all gonna be great today. Enjoy your day and do something special for yourself. And your affirmation for today: I am devoted to my healing process. I am devoted to my healing process. Love y'all, mean it. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Deuces, don't forget Patreon Party Friday. We'll see y'all then. Deuces.
You waiting on me to solve it for me. And last weekend, you had me thinking, almost kicked in and let my head up. Like bum, bum, bum. Put back in rotation. Figure it's in the season. Try right, it's that season. Girl, you know you